There we go. It's catching up on us. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. How is it going? I'm Nick Perro, not your dad. This is Sick of This Shit Publications, coming with you for Intelligent Masculinity. I am joined today by Arturo Dominguez, who is a journalist, who is someone who writes a ton about the Central and Latin American areas, but also US politics based on the border and the policies. And I'm going to let you talk about yourself because you can probably explain yourself way better than I can. He is the publisher at Decolonized Journalism. Journalism is his publication. And I've gotten to speak with Arturo a couple times. He comes on with Shane Urich quite a bit. And they get to talk shop and have fun. And this is going to be a great discussion. Arturo, do you mind introducing yourself for everybody? And letting all of us know who you are, and just a little primer before we get into anything.
Yeah, no, I'm Arturo Dominguez. I've been publishing online since around 2011. Started doing real journalism type stuff, taking courses and stuff around 2014. And I cover a lot of like Latin America stuff, immigration. Those two are intricately connected. Based on like U.S. foreign policy, things like that. A lot of the coverage that I do does focus on U.S. policy in the region, and how it impacts things and destabilizes things, and a lot of it goes back. I kind of tie a lot of things with our foreign policy to our domestic policy because they're intricately connected.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
But yeah, that's kind of what I cover. Human rights focused type stuff,
which is pretty awesome. I'm glad that we have people like you in this world. And I'm very glad that I actually get to talk to you. Not only do we have people like you in this world, but I actually get to talk to you and interact with you and get your opinions and your thoughts. And I get to learn from your experiences. To the question, there was a question in the chat, and sarcasm may not come through. It might not have been sarcastic. It could be, but it was, isn't intelligent masculinity an oxymoron? The answer to that
is kind of funny. It's pretty funny.
It's funny. It made me chuckle just for a second. Is no, it's a discipline. It's a better humaning practice.
Right. Right.
And we're here to discuss that because the problem in our society right now are men. We are the problem. We're causing the problems. We're making the problems worse. And we have an easy solution, is we fix ourselves, is we take it upon ourselves to do the things, is actually take accountability for our actions and grow and be better people. And so I wanted to have these discussions explicitly about it because they're really needed. These are really, really needed right now. Men need these discussions, not just because they are like ideas, but because we like seriously just need to talk about them. Like we have to have men solving this problem together. Men are the problem, so men are going to solve this one. So yeah, no, I know it was sarcastic. It opened up a good conversation point. Don't worry.
It's funny.
I'm not upset.
While you were talking, I saw so many opportunities to be like, well, actually, or not all men.
Well, you were going to mansplain it.
Yeah.
Not all men, not all of us. And hello, everyone. Welcome in the audience. It's really good to have all of you here. Thank you for coming in. Again, I'm Nick Perro, not your dad, here on Sick of This Shit Publications. And we are here to talk intelligent masculinity. This is a series that I've been interviewing since the beginning of January. Arturo is part of this original cohort, I guess, of interviewees that are running through the end of February. And then I'm going to continue this series in perpetuity as my Thursday morning series. So look out for that in perpetuity coming up. Is because these discussions are really important. And they're also a lot of fun. Like I get to meet and learn more about the people that I'm interacting with on often a daily basis. And it builds relationships for us it builds trust for y'all because you get to learn about who you're actually connecting with. And if you're here live with us, you get the fun ability to actually chat with us while we're doing it, because I pay attention to the chat, as you can see. And Arturo pays attention to the chat too. So please chat away, like interact, have fun. That's the whole part. That's like a huge piece of this, is have fun with us. Ask your questions as we go if things come up during the interview. We're not going to start immediately into the questions. I never do. Arturo, do you have only an hour, or are you free a little bit longer?
No, I could probably go a little longer.
Okay. In case we roll over, because I can be wordy. You can be
I'm
wordy.
the same way.
We're all pretty wordy.
Yeah.
And that's actually part of the fun of it, is we get to just talk and let ourselves talk about ourselves and how we've grown, and mistakes we've made, what we've experienced, how we got to where we are today. And using those experiences, it's culminating into written articles. And they're a lot of fun. So before we get into the actual questions, Arturo, I wanted to ask you about the Super Bowl this weekend, specifically the halftime show for the Super Bowl this weekend with Bad Bunny, and the amazing display of culture that we saw during that Super Bowl halftime show, compared to the counter programming of boring ass racism from Kid Rock and Lee Greenwood. So would love your thoughts on that.
Yeah,
Loaded
well,
question.
I'm going to start by saying that from what I've seen, the Kid Rock thing, it was a total bust. It looked like, I don't know, the video clips that I saw reminded me of those like hits from the 80s commercials. You know what I'm saying? Like, buy this collection of CDs of hits from the 80s. And that's what it looked like, some American Gladiator stuff. I don't know. It's weird. But no, the Bad Bunny thing, man, I thought was really cool. You know, I rarely get excited for things like Super Bowl halftime shows, but I found myself on Saturday pretty excited about it. And I thought it was cool in the sense that for Caribbean islanders, right, we have a lot of similarities in our cultures, and the whole party atmosphere, outdoors, you know, all that stuff. It's such a common thing for us. There was so many little like Easter eggs and little hidden messages in there, and there was a lot of things that represented Latin America as a whole. And like, for example, when we got to witness an actual wedding according to Variety, I thought
that was cool.
That was pretty cool, right? But when they showed the little kid that was sleeping at the wedding, that's every Latina kid growing up at having to do this long, drawn out, seems like 3-day long wedding. You know, you're passed out probably on a couch, on a bed with tons of coats and jackets and things like that, or on the couch or something like that, in a suit or in a dress. Yeah, the thing, it was really cool. The representation was nice. When he was going through the list of countries, you know, I held my breath to see if he was going to say Cuba, and he did, which felt pretty good. And then I look on social media, and basically everybody was doing that. Ecuadorians were sitting there waiting for him to say Ecuador. Mexicans were waiting for him to say Mexico. And it was, you get the same sense from everybody that they were kind of holding their breath, waiting to see. And I thought it was really cool. It's kind of almost an anti-imperialist message, mainly centered around Puerto Rico and its situation being at the mercy of the U.S. and its crumbling power grid because of, you know, a lot of corruption from the U.S. You know, one of the things I guess it highlights for a lot of people now, since Cuba's in the conversation, is that's precisely what Cubans don't want for their island. They don't want to end up like Puerto Rico. So yeah, I mean, Puerto Rico's situation is bad, and it's shameful because it's a territory of the United States. So yeah, like there was a lot of that messaging in that show, and I thought it was really cool. You know, from climbing on the telephone poles, all that stuff, that's all related to what's going on in Puerto Rico right now. So yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool.
Yeah. I thought it was an incredible celebration of culture just in
Yeah,
general. And I like my favorite, to be honest, was my favorite part was when he started listing off all the countries. And it wasn't the US like as a primary. It was
right.
it was from tip of the Americas to tip of the Americas. And what it got me thinking about was I lived in Panama for about a month and a half, a couple years ago now. We had considered getting citizenship, like dual citizenship down there. And while we were down there, one of the things I learned was that we, as staters, are
Hmm.
not called Americans outside
No,
of the states, unless you're in Europe, like, and that I don't know if that's changed either recently, but like outside of the states in the Americas, all of us are Americans. Yes, it is controversial to say, and to some people, you just like you cringe when you say I'm an American. Like I get it if Canadians absolutely cringe at the idea of saying they're Americans. I
yeah,
get it. I
yeah,
get it. We have made that idea toxic to them. Like, however, we're staters. We're not all of the Americas. And I thought it was really cool to just be reminded of that in not a it wasn't a shaming way. It wasn't meant
right.
to shame. It was meant to express we're all equally like beautiful and we can all contribute to this amazing tapestry that is the Americas. And I like that. Like
Yeah,
music to me is such a powerful thing.
yeah, and it speaks to a lot too. Like it kind of highlights how much everyone in this hemisphere, from Canada all the way to the southern tip of South America, have so much in common because we're
Mhm.
interconnected by the land in that sense. A lot of people don't realize that, the population in Latin America is twice that of the United States and Canada put together. There's
I
700,
didn't know
seven hundred
that.
fifty million people in Latin America. You
I didn't
know,
know that. That's crazy.
yeah. So like, it's just, it's crazy to me. Like, there's a lot of little things like that we just don't get. And, it's funny that we're kind of talking about the masculinity question today because, a lot of what we're seeing coming out of the White House and all this rhetoric and all this machismo and all this stuff, that's what that is, right? That's toxic masculinity being weaponized and doing real harm to people. And in this sense, in this particular case, that toxic masculinity is a white Christian nationalist type of toxic masculinity, right? They look down on women,
Mhm.
they look down on non-white people, they look at other countries and they think they're superior to everybody else. That's the nationalism part. And
Mhm.
then, all the bigotry and everything comes from the Christian and the white part. So it's just, that's kind of where we are. Like when you see US interventions in Latin America, a lot of it is that it's white Christian nationalism. It's the whole manifest destiny, divine providence, blah, 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 to have seek
Yeah.
dominion over other people. And that's all part of toxic masculinity. That all feeds toxic masculinity. I've been speaking up about Cuba a lot lately, right? Because my family's
Mhm.
there and things are getting bad. And I get a lot of MAGA that are just like, oh, if they only did this, we could. I'm like, dude, like that's literal toxic masculinity right there. If they bow to us, we will stop trying to starve them, and that's what that is. And it's so deeply ingrained in Western society more than anywhere else.
Yeah.
And it's a driving factor in like everything. I was looking today at, just out of curiosity, what the demographics were in the Senate compared to the US population.
Oh, I saw that note you put out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I posted a note. I'm like, holy cow, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Let me find it.
20% Latinos, only 6% representation in the Senate. 13% or 14% Black people, only like what, 5 or 6%, and then it's like 80% white when the white population is 56. And I'm like, I think these toxic white dudes have entirely too much power right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the link to. Oh, I'll take it off all the extra junk on the end. There's the link in the chat for anyone who wants to go. to Arturo's note. It's representatives in the U.S. representation: 89 white people, 6 Latinos, 5 Black senators, which is 89%, 6%, 5%. Population demographics: 56, 20, and 14 respectively.
Yeah.
Like, and you ended it around Tallarico. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So I like Tallarico.
I do too.
And he's not the right fucking candidate. Jasmine Crockett is. Jasmine Crockett, I think, is a better candidate because she has the experience and she knows what the fuck she's doing and she's really good at it. She's proven to be good. And I'm not from Texas, so this is just an opinion. I'm from Arkansas. I have Senators Tom Cotton, John Boozman, and Representative Steve Womack. So like I'm batting 1,000 at shit.
We have Ted Cruz and John Cornyn, so
yeah, I mean we're both batting 1,000 and we're hitting like, and what's being thrown at us instead of baseballs are balls of shit. Like that's literally what's being, and so instead of it going somewhere, it's just splattering on us. Like we hit balls of shit and it just splatters on us. That's what we're represented by.
Yeah, you know,
like I wanted to ask a question there, but I lost like the question of the important. No. So is around Tallarico and Crockett.
Yeah. So
I'd love your opinion, just real quick.
Yeah, for those who don't know, I'm in Texas. So you know the situation with Tallarico, the whole thing is kind of crazy. The new polls that came out yesterday out of the University of Houston showed Jasmine Crockett jumping ahead quite a bit. Mm-hmm. They were tied at like 38% each, and then there was a lot of undecideds, and now the undecideds have dropped to like 12%, and she apparently picked up most of those. And I think the issue in this race that has become really problematic for Texans, because in Texas we don't like outside people interfering in our stuff. Like, you know, we don't like national Republicans telling us how to do this or national Democrats.
You don't want to be tied into the national power grid, so you guys lose fucking power during the winter, shit like that.
Right. So yeah, and the thing with it is, in this whole deal, like there was some things that came out from the Tallarico camp that were tinged with racism, things like that. A lot of people started going, you know, after them for that. And the problem with Tallarico's camp is he has James Carville, which is basically a Republican in a Democrat suit, and he has never Trump Republicans in his camp. What happened there was, rather than listening to the people that were complaining about, dude, that's like borderline racist stuff, they came out admonishing people, right? Reprimanding people, blah, blah, blah. They started standing up for James Carville, saying he's not problematic. Right. Like that dude had said something about Obama needs to go smoke crack or something in 2013. How can you say he's not problematic? Anyway, right? Like
he's a racist. In my opinion, he's a racist.
Well, yeah, me too. My opinion too. And you know, a lot of these, I think when the James Carvilles and these like Tim Miller from the Bulwark and a lot of these other never Trump Republicans started getting involved in the online debate around these questions of, you know, dog whistle racism, it exposed the Republicans, the never Trump Republicans, in showing that that's what they want to go back to. They want to go back to dog whistle politics, not the overt stuff Trump's doing. And, you know, they were the ones pushing this whole idea that we need a white man to win if we want to win Texas. Bro, you're not even in Texas. You don't know nothing about Texas. The last white man who ran for Senate lost to a Latino. Don't tell me we need another white man. You know what I mean? There's so many things wrong with that statement. And honestly, I think that might be what got me to look in the makeup of the Senate was, you know, all this talk about we need a white man. That's such a huge turnoff. And all these Republicans and James Carville are doing more harm than good for Tallarico's campaign. And at the end of the day, now that I think about it, since we're talking about masculinity, it's all white men that were coming out and defending the racist stuff. It's all white men defending James Carville. They're ignoring the black voices speaking up. They're ignoring the Latino voices speaking up. So yeah, here we are again, somehow back to toxic masculinity.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just it's crazy
all
how
there.
it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, it's what we're trying to fix is a cultural thing here.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they hooked into the right wing hooked into a cultural thing, specifically around purity culture, because
yeah.
America, white America, is very Protestant and Presbyterian based and very purity culture based. A lot of what we consider white American culture is purity culture,
Right.
Mormons, things like that. And I do talk shit on you, Mormons. Like, sorry if you're in my audience who's a Mormon, but your religion is literally founded on the genocide of Native Americans and white nationalism. Like,
Yeah.
it is manifest destiny as a religion based on the fraudulent claims of Joseph Smith, who was a fraud, who was a pedophile, which is a child rapist, and an adulterer who took other men's wives, and turned them into his. He
Wow.
was a he was a disgusting person, and he died for his crimes. Um, and Mormonism idolizes him. They
Yeah.
founded a religion on it, and black people were only allowed into the religion like a couple years ago
Yeah.
in
Like
its
in the last
history.
5, 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Mormonism is a white nationalist religion. It just doesn't like ever talking about it, and nobody ever mentions that. Um, but I do. I like to talk about it because that type of culture is fueling all of this purity culture, this soft girl, this trad wife. Which, if you haven't heard about soft girl, and you're a girl dad, you better learn about what soft girl pipeline is. It is the targeted pipeline for underage, for children to turn into trad wives. It is a targeted campaign to turn children into trad wives called soft girls. On the male side, there's a really bad thing that I told Arturo about before the show, which we won't get very far into, but it's something I will be talking more about, is looks maxing, which is a body mutilation thing that typically men do, to turn themselves into a scale from pure Adam to Chad, to like Chad light, to other things. So if you start hearing terms like this, fucking talk to your kids about them. It's called looks maxing. If you are a parent, look this shit up, because it's super fucking important, because it's damaging, not only physically, but it's mentally and emotionally damaging. These kids are like taught to take steroids at young ages. They're mutilating themselves to make this fake perfection. It is like what we all look at in the movies about people turning themselves into these hyper sexualized or hyper figurized people for Aryan views or Aryan body image. That's what they're doing. It's gross, it's
Yeah.
harmful, and it's part of the toxic masculinity pipeline, where the accountability is forked off of the men and told, you can do this. It's not your fault. Like, you're an incel. It's not your fault that you can't get a girl. It's all their fault.
Right.
So here, try and look this perfect part and you'll get the girls. But if you don't, it's still their fault, not your fault. Never your fault. Um,
Yeah. The whole
it's gross.
the whole white supremacy thing, the whole idea of it, and this whole Adonis or whatever look they're trying to go for. Um, it's toxic masculinity 100%.
Mhm.
You ask anybody who's white, really, but if you really want to get under a racist skin, ask them to define what white is. Is it white Anglo-Saxon Protestant? Is it Aryan? Is it Boer? Is
Mhm.
it, you know what I mean? There's so many different white people in
Yeah.
Europe that even if you're talking just Northern Europe alone, or Irish white, British will tell you no. Benjamin
Mhm.
Franklin didn't think so. Didn't think Spaniards or Italians or French were white. Now we think they're all white. So,
Mhm.
um, you know, are you Caucasian? You don't know. Anybody who says they're pure blood, whatever, man, come on. Nobody's
Yeah,
pure
like
blood. Nobody's pure blood anything. Everybody's a mutt at this point. We
uh-huh.
are all mutts at this point.
Yeah,
And,
we're all
and
human.
right. And that's the thing. Like, it kills me because I'm Latino, I'm Cuban, right? For
Hmm.
all intents and purposes in the U.S., I'm Latino or Hispanic. But because my parents are from 90 miles off the coast of Florida, not that far, I'm not white, right? Because we're
Yeah,
mixed. We are quote unquote
you're islanders. You're
we're the
those others.
colonized. They're the colonizers. So that's essentially where the line for whiteness is drawn with them,
Hmm.
and it makes no damn sense. It really doesn't. A lot of my life I'm walking around. I didn't assume anybody thought I was anything, but the minute they hear me speak Spanish, they're like, "Oh man, I thought you were white." I'm like, "I'm not." They're like, "Well, you're not white. White." I'm like, "Oh, I need two whites." Okay,
Oh, yeah, you need that double white.
you're right. I have to have two whites. And then they're like, "I didn't know you spoke Mexican." I'm like, it's Spanish, bro. Like in Texas, everybody thinks Spanish, or not everybody, but a lot of people think Spanish is Mexican. They're like, I didn't think you speak Spanish. I'm like, if anything, I speak Cuban Spanish, which is basic. Well, I call it street Spanish. Our Caribbean Islander Spanish is a mix of Spanish and indigenous and a lot of African stuff, so it's kind of a combination of Spanish, but we talk fast and skip over a lot of stuff. So
I had a friend in college who was Dominican, and if you ever mixed up which island he was from on accident, he was very defensive.
yeah,
Um, some people did it on purpose, so I understood why, like
right,
because they wanted to make. But like, I was always curious because he was like, he talked about it. It's like there's actually a distinct like physical difference for I think Dominicans is they're tend to have a broader forehead, um, and also be very hairy. Like this dude was like the epitome of hair from the top of his head to his feet. Like it didn't stop. Like
yeah,
just, I was like, man, how fucking hot are you right now during the summers? Like he's like, nah, man, I'm good. Like I don't have to worry about it. I sweat it off. But it was always so funny, like to get to talk to him about like the differences in the culture, like because he knew when people were being honest about asking questions, he would actually talk about like, yeah, like I don't like this. It's yeah, the like minimal tribalism.
right,
Or American citizen, I see what you're saying. Like minimal tribalism, though, is like, yeah, we get to poke fun at our slight differences between each other because it gives us a little bit of difference and it makes us
right.
fun, but we're not really mad at each other. Um, and where I was going with this is I will really want to get into because we've gone through a half hour already, just having fun and haven't even gotten into the questions yet. Is I got to do my hosting thing. Is I got to actually ask you some questions
Right.
because they're important and they're fun. So everyone, welcome back to Intelligent Masculinity, where we're now getting into the question set part of this. Is I've got 5 overall questions for Arturo. The first one is a double part question. Most of you know them by now in the audience. And then the final part is based on the Mulan song, I'll Make a Man Out of You. It's the clarion call for men. It's the Let's Go Girls of men's songs. And it's like this pump up anthem that says, let's go, man. Let's go, guys. Let's go do something. Let's go be cool. And for me, it's also a fun way to ask questions that are not the normal, and get you to think a little bit. So let's have a great time because we've talked a lot about masculinity already and like the toxicity that's around and what we are fighting against and what we are on offense to promote for and live and model for others. So in your life, my friend, who has been, and this is like I said, a two-part question, and this person does not have, these people in the end do not have to be positive influences. They can be either or. They can be positive or negative. So in your life, who has been the most influential masculine figure and why?
Aside from, saying my dad or something like that, because my dad was a really huge influence in my life, um, growing up and stuff, there are a lot, I often look to like civil rights leaders, a lot of, black leaders, black thinkers, and there are messages in there. And, especially in terms of masculinity, I look up to a lot of black civil rights leaders because they spoke up for women. They spoke up for a lot of different groups. And it shows that you can still, be a man, without having to be, toxic to those people around you. To be more supportive, to be more uplifting. That's how my dad always tried to be. Um, and I learned a lot in that respect. Like even listening to Public Enemy, for example, growing up. You know what I mean? Chuck D, listening to him talk. KRS-One, all the old hip hop stars when we were kids. There was a lot of really important messaging in there that I think a lot of people in Gen X, our generation, missed. Or um, I don't want to assume your age, but
I'm a
I just
millennial. I'm 36.
okay.
I'm a millennial, but I no, I get that too. Like we have similar like growing up experience of pre-internet things.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and I think that makes a distinct difference for our generations, our two generations specifically, because we were the most impacted by the creation of the internet.
yeah,
And so I think we have a real distinct pre-internet understanding of and like figures that we were able to learn about and idolize and learn from. Um, and then we got to expand on that once we had the internet, which was pretty cool. I know that was slightly off top on it, but I think that means something to me around this is like you're talking about cultural figures. Is like I learned about Malcolm X when I was in high school
yeah,
on purpose. Like I was like I had the opportunity to learn about different cultural figures for like I think it was like a senior thesis paper or something. And I learned about Malcolm X because I was like, what I don't know who this is, and I need to understand somebody that's not me. Um, and man, that changed my life.
yeah. And that's the thing. I always when we talk about toxic masculinity and like influences like that, Malcolm X is a great example. Because he was militant, right? He
Hmm.
spoke with militant language. He spoke in a way that scared some people, especially white people. But yet, behind the scenes, like if anybody's read the autobiography of Malcolm X, I mean, this guy, he was, you know, he cared about his family. He cared about his kids. He treated his family with respect. Like certain things he didn't do around his wife. Like he didn't, try not to yell, try not to cuss around the kid. Like he tried to be mindful. Yeah, and when you listen to guys like this and they focus on how important the mother is in a family, um, particularly to the children, and it's like they put mom in the middle and everybody's orbiting around her. And that's kind of how I see guys who can still, bring it, be tough, be the man they're supposed to be, but still being mindful, and uplifting people and doing the right thing. I mean, there's so many great examples. But again, I always go back to my dad, and I think a lot of this has to do with like Latino culture in general, right? There's a lot of machismo, and a lot
Hmm.
of it can be very toxic. But at the end of the day, for the most part, culturally, we uphold our women, um, because we understand how important they are. And in our culture, typically, the man goes to work, mom stays home with the kids, cleans the house, cooks, whatever. Man helps do that when he's home. sometimes husband cooks, when after work and things like that. And it's just, you see this level of respect for, the opposite sex, even trans people or gay people. You see this certain level of respect that you just don't really see in Western culture anymore, because I think there's the difference in a lot of this is the sense of community that you
Yeah.
have in so-called third world countries compared to the rugged individualism of the United States.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree there. So go into that for me on your idea of the distinct, like the importance of that, because I fully agree. I think that part of one of the main failings of America is we believe in this idea of rugged individualism over community. And when I talk more on my like political side of things, is one of the big things I've realized for like just in general is democracy is community at scale,
Right,
and fascism is domestic abuse at scale. And that's
right,
from your weirdo friend on that one, and that's a great lesson. Is fascism is abuse at scale, is domestic violence at scale, basically,
yeah,
um, compared
that's a
to
good one.
democracy, which is community at scale. And I think that's super important to get from some of these lessons. And yeah, in the chat, Eric, you do have a good point too on like Malcolm X had to learn to tolerate others. He grew as a person. He didn't like Jewish people for a while, and he learned after going to prison. And that's okay because he learned. He
Right,
didn't know. He had an opinion that wasn't based in good information, and then he changed his opinion and he was
right, and
willing to learn.
that's kind of emblematic of how we are as we're growing up, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's not like we're born knowing everything. And a lot of what we learn happens as we go through life. So sometimes we say stupid shit. Sometimes, yeah, I remember going camping with a bunch of my friends. We were talking about being in a band. There was a whole bunch of us, the band, the whole crew, and everybody. And one girl was like making sandwiches before we started going down the Guadalupe River in inner tubes here in Texas. And I made a joke, right? Yeah, that's what women's supposed to be doing, making me a damn sandwich. Afterwards, I went to eat a sandwich and the cheese still had the wrapper on it. Another one had bark in it. I was like, what the fuck? And it was all fun and games, but at the time, it's still toxic, right? Even if it's a
Mhm.
joke. And like, you say stupid things and then you learn a valuable lesson right there.
Oh
And
yeah.
it just so happens that I happen to be a Cuban man and I said that to a Puerto Rican girl. So there you have it. That's kind of what
Yeah.
happens. And that's why we respect our women, because they'll make you pay if you don't. Um, so
I
yeah, I
think it's
mean,
also important that you listen. That to me, one of the big important things is you listened. Like you took accountability in the end. Yeah, you said something shitty, and we all have. We've been there. There's a reason why I purposely talk like when I degrade men specifically, or when I insult other people. I do it using male anatomy.
yeah.
Like, isn't it more insulting to be called a testicle? Like, how should like you're a soft, weak little ball that gets kicked and you go down and you break. Like,
Hey, I do sometimes call people ball bags on the internet. So
yeah, like you're a dirty ball sack. You
yeah,
smell like a taint. Like that's gross. Or like
yeah,
Stephen Miller, you look like a penis you are the smeglamaniac. You are that gross yeasty shit on an unclean, uncircumcised penis. You're a yeast infection of a human being. Like that's more disgusting than calling somebody a pussy. Like
yeah.
here's the thing, pussies can take poundings, balls cannot. Like balls cannot. So testicles, penises, they can't do that. They get broke. So like just saying, you
Yeah,
got like women are the stronger gender. And it's okay to admit that in a for me anyways, women are a stronger gender. Not that gender is really like a distinct thing. Like there are gender fluid. There's everywhere in between. It's a spectrum, just like almost everything else in our lives is
yeah,
a spectrum.
everything.
I'm pretty sure it's okay that gender and sexuality can be spectrums too. Like, get
Yeah.
over it, Christian nationalists. Like, uh, you guys kind of suck. You're boring. Like, that's the thing I've noticed too. They're just boring people. They
Yeah,
have no
yeah,
culture. They have no fun. They don't want to do nice things or go celebrate art. They're boring,
yeah.
boring
And
as fucking people.
it's interesting too because a lot of people don't realize that our entire economy, the whole idea of pick yourself up by the bootstraps,
Mm,
the individualism that we were just talking about, all that is Protestantism. It's came from the colonizers who came to the U.S.,
mm-hmm.
the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. And I maybe it's just me, but I always felt like white Anglo was kind of redundant. Why aren't they just Anglo-Saxon Protestants? But maybe I don't know. It could be me, but either way, I
Well,
think
they had
that
to distinguish themselves somehow. They had to make
yeah,
themselves better.
I guess. But but yeah, it's this whole idea of individualism is a part of this toxic masculinity shit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I'm a man, I don't need any help. I can do
Yeah,
this myself, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
But man, you look at the Amish and how fast do they build a house or a barn and how easily do they move it with a sense of community? You get
mm-hmm.
150, 200 men and bam, you have a barn in a day, you know? Um, a single, one guy and his buddy aren't going to do that. That rugged individualism isn't going to accomplish that. Having a sense of community means you don't have homeless people like in Cuba
Yeah,
or in much of Latin America. It means that you provide at least some level of universal type of healthcare, even basic healthcare, which most of Latin America has. These are the differences between like Western ideals and basically the rest of the world is the lack of a sense of community, and it's no more prevalent than anywhere else than in the suburbs.
yeah.
Like I talk about this in my neighborhood all the time. Like, we have an Indian family, from India, lives down the street, Mexican folks across the street, black people across the street, black people in my house, and a lot of times we'll be in the front yard. And I always point this out because it's always not the non-white people. It might be me and the Mexican family. It might be me and the Indian family. It might be a group of us.
Mm-hmm.
White folks will walk by walking their dog and won't even make eye contact, say hi or anything. And it's just like, dude, like, and we just kind of giggle and laugh about it because there's that rugged individualism, that Protestantism thing that we have ingrained into us here in the U.S. compared to the sense of community that you see elsewhere.
Yeah,
And it doesn't matter, when the shit hits fan, disaster strikes like it has before. I don't care who it is. I'm going to go help, but we even have this white family next door. They're like super Christian, got a bunch of kids. They're really nice people, great people. They get along with all of us, the Indian couple, the family. There's some cool white people around here, but there's still just there's some that just, I don't know. And it's toxic. And it's usually men that do it, that
yeah,
just walk by without even making eye contact. And it's just kind of weird that to have that view, you know what I'm saying? To have that
yeah.
view as, that's how you look out at the world, and I think it's a strange way to think. And I guess that's why, I ended up being somewhat of a socialist, because it's about community, right? It's about having a sense of community.
Yeah, like it is. And so, like, and that community spans all of us. Like, we all play a part in that community, and every part of that community matters too. Like, each part of that community individually matters and collectively matters. Like, that's the thing that I have come to find that is really important in all of this, like from learning from what masculine figures provide. And then the next part of the question I'm going to ask here after this, but like, is all about the community and how we
Right.
learn to respect ourselves so that we can respect others around us. And that requires both the masculine figures in our life, like we talked about here a little bit ago with many of the civil rights leaders, with your dad as being a general example for a lot of us. Our fathers are, mine was a really good one, others are really bad.
Yeah.
So I won't speak for others. Mine, I had a really great example of a father. But I'm glad you expanded into the civil rights leaders and the leaders around you and the activists and those who fought for
Right.
things. Um, is on the other end of the gender spectrum, is the femininity side. Is so who has been the most influential feminine figure in your life? Because that is equally as important to give us a whole human.
Right, right. And for me, it's hands down probably my mom. Not probably, no, it is my mom. Her and my dad got divorced when we were really young, when I was really young. And she was pretty much single mom most of our life, raising three boys in Union City, New Jersey, of all places.
Well, that's not
Uh,
easy.
yeah, and crime was bad at the time. Cities were on the verge of bankruptcy up there in the Northeast. New York City was like all
Mhm.
these, everything was terrible at the time.
Yeah.
We lived in a pretty crappy community, but we got along, we got through. Um, a lot of having to fend for ourselves in the streets. But we
Mhm.
were latchkey kids. We had the keys to the house after school. Mom's at work doing the thing. Always came home, made dinner. It's always Cuban food, just like we still eat today. I still make Cuban food almost every night for dinner. And it has to be my mom because of what she had to endure to just make sure we survived. Um, I don't weigh my success or my brother's success or anything like that uh, on my mother or whatever. Whatever problems we've had in her life, I don't put that on my mother. Her job was to make sure we survived, had food to eat, had to bathe,
Mhm.
got to school, and she did that. And yeah, it was tough. It was tough. We grew up pretty rough. A lot of getting beat up, a lot of fighting. Living in the hood type situation, but she was always there, and somehow we got through. If it meant taking a bus to the grocery store and a taxi cab home because we had the bags of groceries to put in, then that's what it was. Aside from my mom, um, it would have to be my grandma. My grandma stayed in Cuba up until like the last 10 years of her life. She came to the US so she can get to know, her grandkids, her great grandkids, all that stuff. She never wanted to leave Cuba. She was a revolutionary. A lot of my family doesn't like to talk about that, but she was. And my grandmother kind of led me down the path on what to look for in Cuban history and in Cuban culture and, just our heritage to like learn the truth about Cuba. And, um, you mentioned something about how Caribbean islanders, a lot of people have distinct looks.
Mhm.
And this is true for the Afro-Cuban population. It's because they're all Yoruban from that region of Africa, which is Ethiopia now, I believe. And um, growing up, like my grandma was telling me how much in Cuba, how much they celebrate, their African lineage, the heritage, and it's celebrated across the island, across races, across
Yeah.
ethnicities and stuff. And they have festivals, and it's an everyday thing. Like they don't have a Black History Month because they don't need a Black History Month. And I always thought that was really cool. So while she was still around, I was looking up stuff and learning things. If I had questions, I would ask. And like there was so many things that were really eye opening. Um, and I just I think about her every day because every time I'm writing about Cuba or learning something new about Cuba, I'm like, if it wasn't for Mima, I wouldn't know any of this. And I think, it's just super cool. Like, it's hard to put into words the impact that kind of stuff has when you like
Mhm.
don't really know, like your heritage, like where the culture
Yeah.
comes from and all that stuff. Because, I lived in Miami a few years, two different times. And like the Cuban culture there is very different. It's very white. It's very racist. Um, but the Cubans that couldn't put up with that type of stuff, the racism and the things like that, they're all in Jersey. That's where I grew up, where all the Afro Cubans were, all the mixed Cubans were. It wasn't as white. And, Union City was called, and still is called, Havana on the Hudson because it was right on the Hudson River across the river from New York City. And And that's why, because it was just so thick with Cubans. And yeah, if it wasn't for my grandma, man, like there's so many things that I wouldn't know. And we grew up also in a time where, and this is toxic too, where our families didn't want us, they would mock us for speaking Spanish, or because we're in the US, we should speak English. And like I didn't really teach my kids that much Spanish, and I regret that now. But yeah, like we went through a lot of that shaming, for speaking Spanish. And that was pretty prevalent for a lot of Gen Xers. You hear these kind of stories all the time. And I always thought it was just me, but apparently it's not. That's why there's like a generation of Latinos that don't speak Spanish, because they got skipped over because of being shamed for that. And it, again, a lot of mostly came from men, like in Miami, that didn't really happen as much, because Miami, you don't have to speak English. You really don't.
Yeah.
It's still 51% or something white, but the pockets in Miami, like Little Havana and stuff, you don't need English down there at all. But yeah, like, Jersey, even in Texas, especially in Texas, you get a lot of shame for speaking Spanish. So yeah,
which is crazy for Texas. Like, there's so much Spanish in Texas, and so much. It was literally part of Mexico until they broke off. Like, why?
Yeah.
How would they not speak Spanish? Like, the
and,
Spanish colonized Mexico.
It was funny because
Texas, like, it's history.
Right. like Spanish was my first language, right? Because my dad still doesn't speak English. He's 92. But yeah, Spanish was my first language, because we were, like I said, Havana on the Hudson, Union City. You didn't need English there. Everybody around us was speaking Spanish all the time. But when I got to school, started learning English early enough that I could pick up the accents, and it seems normal. But yeah, like, you come to Texas, and it's just like a whole different idea with the Spanish stuff. And yeah, like we had our Spanish teacher, for example, was like a Peggy Hill. And here I am, Spanish, my first language, getting a D, because there's this white lady who speaks Spanish like Peggy Hill from King of the Hill. And you're just like, bro, like, really? Like, I could teach you Spanish. Like, what? So yeah, it's a weird cultural, like, it was a huge culture shock moving to Texas from Jersey. That's for damn sure. Moving to Miami from Jersey was a culture shock, but moving to Texas was very weird. Very weird. But yeah, there was a lot of kind of shaming for speaking Spanish. But yeah, to go back to my grandma, man, like, she was the one that really opened my eyes to a lot of things, made me respect our culture, our heritage, speaking Spanish, all that stuff, and the importance of it. So yeah, maybe I learned late about the importance of teaching my kids to speak Spanish, but at least I learned the value of it thanks to her.
Well, I'm glad you did. I mean, it's important. Like, people talk about remembering your heritage or remembering your history, and it's important because you learn lessons from it. You learn both good and bad lessons from your own family lineages. You learn good and bad lessons from your own cultural heritages, and you grow from them, but you learn cool things, and you get to experience stuff. And what's wrong with learning another language? Like, nobody made fun of you if you learned French.
Right.
Like, I learned French growing up in high school. Like, we're right next to Canada, to Quebec. It made sense that we learned French, because if I wanted to go to Canada, I would go speak French to the French Canadians. Like, but it's the darkness of the skin. Is what it comes down to. It's the darkness of the skin. It's the melanin content that people really hate.
It's product of colonization type situation, right? It's you don't want you speaking Spanish. It's a whole,
it's still that whole continuation of the Spanish aren't white from Europe,
right?
Like, that it's taken time for Spanish people to be considered white. It's a second class European nation, I guess, or would have been for a long time, until they became like identified as like a white nation, just like the Greeks and the Italians and the Irish and a lot of Jewish people. Like, we're not white. Sorry, y'all. We're from the Middle East originally. Like,
Yeah. Like,
too fucking
I
bad,
mean,
you know. But
we
like,
all
so
came out of Africa, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So who cares?
yeah.
Uh, and so with all of this, with this really good learning that you've had, with the experiences from your family, from growing up, from what you've learned now, as you've become as you are an adult, as you've experienced adulthood for your years, and have you grown over it, even if you've never asked your, or even if you've never defined it yourself as intelligent masculinity, but in masculinity for you, what does it mean to be intelligently masculine? Um,
Well, I'm a firm believer in, and this is probably a cultural thing, epigenetics, whatever, comes down from all our, histories in this world. Um, but like, I'm a believer in, like, the man has his place in protecting the family and being the provider and, being supportive, um, being a father, being a good partner, whether that's husband, wife, whatever. You know, just trying to be, rational, compassionate, empathetic. Um, and, I've been married 20 something years. I can't even do the math right now, but, all my kids are like, and my oldest is like 28. And, my youngest just turned 21. And, my wife and I have been married for like almost 25 years now. We've been together like 26 or 27. And, I like, she'd been out of town for like a week to go hang out with her cousin in East Texas. Like, fucking fine, go do your thing. Um, and we kind of get along like that. We crack
mhm.
jokes, we rag on each other, we give each other a hard time. We say offensive shit to each other all the time. Just to be funny. Um, like, if my wife starts rubbing up on me or something, I'm like, unwanted advances, jokes like that. Something like,
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. My
yeah.
wife and I
So
do that too.
yeah. So we if you can't be stupid,
If you can't have fun,
you don't have a chance, right? You got to be able. One of the things that's important in life is, even as an adult, and I know it's going to sound stupid, is playing, man. You got to play. You got to be able to play, whether it's with your spouse, horse playing, running around, doing whatever. You got to be able to have fun. You have to be able to enjoy the life you have. Like, the situation right now for a lot of us sucks. It really does. Helicopters flying over, ice everywhere, threatening Cuba. Friends, family, everybody's under threat. But like, somehow in all this chaos and all this misery, sometimes we have some of the best moments in our lives. And you have to be able to learn to enjoy at least something, even in the midst of just total chaos. And that's kind of where we are now. And, like the halftime show, for example, it
hmm
gave me, I'm not, like I said, I'm not real big on the halftime show type situation, that watching it and Super Bowl and all that, unless my team's in there. But, but yeah, I don't really do all that, but it gave me an opportunity to check out, to just turn everything off up here, watch
hmm
that, enjoy, reminisce about some culture, reminisce about growing up, reminisce about a lot of things. And I know it was only 25 minutes, but a lot happened in that 25
Oh
minutes,
yeah.
for a lot of us. So, um, yeah, you got to be able to laugh through these things. And again, that's another thing that I learned from my grandmother. When she talked about having to live through the special period after Russia fell, the USSR fell, and put Cuba in a bind, and they had to live through rationing and all that stuff. Somehow they found a way to just enjoy the moments,
hmm
and get through. And there's a lot of valuable lessons to be learned from people who have been oppressed in that sense. you know, with everything going on in Gaza, I've seen some people finding some happiness in small moments, and that's just humanity, right? That's the human condition. Suffering is part of the human condition, and so is getting through it, and so is being somewhat of a joy going through it. It doesn't do anybody any good to be a pessimistic pain in the ass all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you know, to me, intelligent masculinity is just really just showing respect, man, for others, not being Andrew Tate or Nick Fuentes. Your body, my choice. I could smack that fool for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Jesus God.
like it's not even showing an ounce of respect, and you cannot tell me that is not toxic. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, these guys, these same guys, they hear the words toxic masculinity, and to them it translates to we're saying all masculinity is toxic. It isn't. Plain and simple. You know, you have men that are a little more feminine than other men. You have women that are a little more masculine than other women. Um, like you said earlier, everything's on a spectrum. There's levels to everything. So, you know, you see these guys and they see an athlete who's jacked or something that would probably whoop their ass. But like, that's a man. I'm like, bro, you couldn't
Mm-hmm.
identify a woman from a mile away, from 10 feet away, let alone a mile away. If you
Yeah.
think that's a man, like, what is wrong with you? So, you know, they're like, define what a woman is. And I'm like, no, you define a woman. Like, you apparently look at women and you're like, that's a man. Well, good luck getting laid with that attitude. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what is there to it other than intelligent masculinity is really nothing more than common sense. You get what
Yeah.
you give, and you get what you give in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want respect, you got to
It's
give. You got to give it.
yeah. It's part of that golden rule thing, of do unto others as you want done unto you. Um, that's a pretty like that was a rule that I learned. That's apparently a Christian value. I don't like supposed to be,
Yeah,
but
I believe it is the way. Well,
like
do unto others. Yeah, I believe that part is. Yeah.
like do unto others that you want done unto you. So be nicer. Like go enjoy yourself. Like have fun. Joy is a huge part of it because joy is a communal emotion and a personal emotion. It can be both because you can share joy with others. Like I got invited this weekend to make by a friend to make toilet paper bird, like
Oh,
toilet
nice.
paper roll
That's toilet
birds.
paper. Oh, okay, okay.
That's
Yeah,
a little toilet paper roll that I
that's
cut.
cool.
And then my wife made one.
Nice.
My daughter made one.
That's cool.
And my son made one. We all made little toilet paper roll birds. All of us.
That's awesome. Those
For
are cool.
30 minutes. 30 minutes maybe. We had fun. We created. We had joy together in a
Right.
communal sense. Like we just sat at the table and had a lot of joy. Those are the types of things you can easily spread. That's masculinity too. Like spreading joy is protecting. Spreading joy is a protecting thing. Like
Right.
you spread joy to protect other people so that their happiness is protected too, right? Add to others. You want to, men can be more than just selfishness. And you answered my next question, which was how do you model intelligent masculinity? You've already answered it in so many ways throughout. I'm going to skip that question also because I want to respect your time. We're already a little over, but I want to get to the next ones. Is this one is really important to me? Is how do you self-reflect and self-evaluate on your, not just on your masculinity, but on yourself and what you've done through with your actions? How do you ask yourself, how can I be better?
You know, we always say, you know, tomorrow I plan to be a better man than I was today, or a better person than I was today, and to do better than I did today. I mean, that's what I don't know if anybody else says that, but you should. You should tell yourself that every day. I think that with that kind of a mindset, self reflection isn't really all that complicated. You know, I like to read a lot. And even though I have really bad tinnitus, I like to sit in silence sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's an opportunity for self-reflection. You know, I grew up Catholic, and my mom converted to Buddhism when I was like 13, 14 years old. And there's a lot of, meditation type of self-awareness type situation, type of thing that goes on. And, I think how to do it is, I think it starts one by telling yourself that, yeah, you're going to be a better person tomorrow. Right. And then the next day, am I being a better person the next day? And I try not to get too much into psychology because I'm not like a mental health expert. And the last thing I want to do is like break somebody's brain. But I do think like self-evaluation is a big deal. Like how you respond in certain situations, how you react to certain situations, particularly like tense situations, maybe arguments with your significant other. It's important to like look at yourself like you're looking at yourself in a mirror in that situation. So you're not, you don't go over the top. You don't start screaming and yelling. Like, is this the kind of person you want to portray? Unless you see yourself acting just absolutely bonkers, you're not going to realize you're acting absolutely bonkers. So yeah, I think, self-reflection and self-evaluation, requires some discipline, and some thought. But again, it really just 10 minutes a day of just sitting and thinking about something, or take 10 minutes after something big happened or something big is about to happen or something you see coming, and start reflecting on how you're going to deal with that. One of the tricks that I use is, and I learned this from my brother when he was in the Marines, is to think 3 steps ahead all the time. And I do that with my kids, with every decision I make with my kids. I do that with every decision in life. Like if I make this decision, what could possibly happen here? What could possibly happen there? And so on. And, you try to evaluate, you try to be prepared, you try to make educated decisions. And even when, despite, having the right mindset of trying to do the right thing, not everything goes to plan. Sometimes it helps to reanalyze how you handled that situation. A lot of what happens in our life is outside of our control. I would say majority of it, but how we respond to it is absolutely in our control. And this doesn't mean being passive. This doesn't mean letting somebody like target you or your family or anything like that, because anybody who knows my history knows I spent a lot of nights in jail fighting with Nazis or people who threaten my kids or something like that. And, in Texas, we have dueling laws. As long as no weapons are involved and as long as both parties are willing participants, they throw you in a drunk tank for 8 hours, whether you're drunk or not, and then they cut you loose. I did a lot of that. And I'll defend my family from anybody or anything. And that, I think that to me is part of intelligent masculinity. But without the ability to self-reflect and self-evaluate, how do you know you're not going too far? You know what I mean? How do you know you're not the one being the provocateur? And, you have to make sure you're not that guy. And all the self-reflection and self-evaluation in my life has led me to constantly be in a defensive position, not an offensive position. I'm a gun owner. I own a lot of guns, but I own guns from a defensive standpoint. I'm not out there packing heat, flashing my gun around. I'm not on the internet bragging about it. I'm not posting pictures about it. I'm not trying to intimidate anybody. I have them because I'm surrounded by them. Everybody, this is Texas. You'd be a dumbass to be surrounded by people with guns and not have a gun. So yeah, you just have to be willing to look at yourself in the most ugliest of times.
Yeah.
Some of your worst moments, some of your most embarrassing moments, even. How do I avoid doing that again? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, try to put a little humor into that. But yeah, I think it's important for everyone. Yeah, and particularly men, and from a toxic masculinity standpoint, to be able to self-reflect and ensure you're not doing harm, because that should be the key to everything you do. Just do no harm. Just don't harm anybody.
That's super important. Hey, I actually got a drop. I just got invited by Wajahat Ali to jump on and talk about
Oh,
intelligent masculinity um, on his show that he's doing right now, um, which is awesome and kind of sucks because I love the last questions. I will ask you them, and we will record them at a
okay,
separate time. But
okay.
I want to make sure I get on there because I think this is really important to be able to spread this message even more too. Like get this shit
Yeah,
out there.
that's cool. Wajahat, and I've never met him, but he did some work at Latino Rebels at the same time I was doing some work over at Latino Rebels. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, he's cool. I like Wajahat. Yeah, good dude. Tell him I said thanks for cutting off my show. I'm just
Heck yeah,
kidding.
I will, brother. Hey, thanks, Arturo. Thank you
Yeah,
so
man.
much. Shamelessly promote yourself real quick.
Yeah,
Where
Arturo
can people find you?
Dominguez, decolonized journalism. Click the thing, subscribe. All my work is free. If you can afford to support that work, I like to leave it free and accessible for everybody. But if you can support that work, become a paid subscriber.
Sweet. Thanks,
Awesome,
man.
man.
Thanks.
Thanks, dude.
Appreciate it. And I'll talk
Yes,
to you again soon. Thanks,
yes, sir.
everyone.